Estamos a 12 horas de la Ciudad de México, en la región de la montaña alta. Es una zona marginada, es una zona indígena, es una zona que carece de muchos recursos para ejercer la cirugía en este tipo de hospital. Decidí traer medicina de bajo costo, de fácil acceso, a zonas rurales con el apoyo de realidad virtual.
Dr. Jose Luis Mozo Vazquez is a surgeon at the Pan American University in Mexico City. Dr. Mozo uses virtual reality as a painkiller in the operating room, allowing him to use local anesthetic instead of putting his patients under.
No se mueva. El problema con los anestésicos tradicionales tienen algunas desventajas, entre ellos el alto costo y los efectos colaterales o adversos.
He operates on patients with afflictions like cysts and tumors, using VR to distract them.
Sí, está grande. ¿Cuál quiere probar? ¿El parque? Se colocan los lentes virtuales, se ajustan de acuerdo al tamaño de su cabeza y se enciende el sistema de realidad virtual que se hace con un teléfono celular actualmente.
Durante la operación yo miré paisaje, plantas, animales, rocas y lo que es la ecología. Me relajé con eso, me entretuve. Con eso ya cuando menos pues ya estaba terminada la cirugía.
¿Cómo te sientes? Bien. ¿Bien? Bueno, unos piquetitos leves, pero no fue así dolor tremendo. No, para mí fue normal. Gracias, doctor.
Reducimos el dolor más del 50% en estos pacientes. A los pacientes les da una gran esperanza de sobrevida, les da una mejor calidad de vida. Me hace sentir una persona satisfecha con la vida, satisfecha con la vida profesional que me ha permitido desarrollarme, devolverle a la sociedad lo que me ha generado.
We saw a few patients that were blind yesterday and now they are seeing today. I have personally done surgeries on more than 130,000 patients. I grew up in a very small village northeast of Nepal. I lost my brother and sisters to such simple diseases that could have been cured by modern medicine. And that's why it has become my mission in life, to be a doctor for the poor. There are so many people that I can help. I am Dr. Sanduk Ruit. I am an ophthalmologist and executive director of the Telangana Institute of Ophthalmology here in Nepal, which caters to about 500,000 to 1 million people. Many Nepalis in rural villages are losing their eyesight. 90% of the blind actually lives in this part of the world. Cataract as a disease can cloud your vision for life. Surgery is the only treatment for cataract. So I travel to remote villages all over my country. Since I know from my own experience, people who are marginalized both because of economy and geography, they are the ones who suffer a lot. The longest that I have traveled is walking for 7 days with the equipments. I have these big eye-opening festivals. It's kind of a moment where I've seen hundreds of patients. You're probably working for 13 hours a day. Everybody thought I am crazy and mad. We wanted to find surgical technique and a surgical system which was cost-effective. Intraocular lenses, which are a must part of modern cataract surgery, used to cost $250 to $300. We worked very, very hard to bring down the cost of these lenses to less than $3 by being able to manufacture in Nepal. I've seen thousands, but each patient's story touches my heart. And it is the expression of these patients who have been blind yesterday, and suddenly they come out and see everything in front of them, see people they loved, and they change the perspective to life in a fraction of a second. We have been seeing some good effects of our work in the last 10 years. We have trained nearly 650 doctors. And I believe that we can do this all over the world. And I want to spend the rest of my life raising money for many of these hospitals. This is why this medical intervention is so beautiful and so powerful. My patients are my life and soul.
This is Myron.
Hi.
Myron is an athlete.
I played a little football in college.
And?
I was a Rhodes Scholar.
And?
I played for the NFL.
And?
I have a master's degree in medical anthropology.
And?
And I'm a neurosurgeon.
Sheesh.
My first dream was to play professional football. There's no question. I was very active as a young man, and I knew that I was pretty good at it. When I got to the 5th grade, that's when I knew I wanted to pursue my second dream. I read a book called Gifted Hands by Ben Carson, who looked like me. He was black, who came from a similar socioeconomic background as me. You know, we didn't have much money when we left the Bahamas and came to America. And the more I read about it, the more I knew that once I was done playing football, neurosurgery was going to be the pathway in the second chapter of my life. I was the #1 rated high school player in the country for football, recruited by everyone, 83 scholarship offers. I always felt that football fed academics, academics fed football.
Myron spent his college years playing football and shadowing doctors. He graduated in 2.5 years and was expected to be a first or second round draft pick in the NFL with a multi-million-dollar contract, but he also had a chance to study at Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar.
I ended up deciding to go to Oxford and saying no to the NFL and spent a 1.5 years over there. I came back to the United States, went into the draft and got drafted in the 6th round instead of the 2nd or 1st, made $70,000 instead of $6 million, played for 3 years, got out healthy, felt good about my time there, frankly made enough money to pay for medical school, didn't have any lasting concussions, and my hands were okay where I was able to do surgeries in the operating room. And so I left on my own volition, started medical school, and here I am now.
Since head injuries are common on the football field, Myron works to impress the importance of avoiding concussions on young players. But for Myron, his days of tackling are behind him.
Football was great for that season of my life, but now this is it. This is the pinnacle. This is where I belong. And I've told my parents several times over and over again, they asked me, Myron, how do you feel what you're doing now? How do you feel? I said, Mommy and Daddy, I feel like this is where I belong.
So did you say you played a sport before?
Yes, I played football.
C-sections are the most common major surgery performed on human beings. Over basically one generation of moms, the C-section rate has gone up by 500%. The problem is that your #1 risk for having a C-section might be which hospital you go to. That's what wakes me up in the morning. I'm Neil Shah, an obstetrician over at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. I'm an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School, and I'm part of the core faculty here at Ariadne Labs. A lot of people don't realize the full magnitude of the problem with C-sections. Basically, in the late 1960s, early 1970s, C-section rates were about 5%. And then all of a sudden the C-section rate starts to skyrocket. Not just increase, but skyrocket. So before the end of the century, the C-section rate goes up to 1 in 3. And we don't really have a great idea why this is happening. As a surgeon myself, it's hard to believe that 1 in 3 human beings needs major surgery to be born, but that's sort of where we are right now. And the consequences are significant. So things like severe infection, hemorrhage, organ injury. In addition to $5 billion of spending annually, we're talking something like 20,000 major avoidable surgical complications that we're seeing from C-sections we didn't need to do in the first place. I was really puzzled when I first started this job, thinking, like, what can we possibly do about this? Epidemiologists, economists, policymakers, lots of people have been thinking about this for a long time. The clue for me was the fact that across the country, C-section rates vary from 7% to 70% by hospital. If hospital performance is so uneven and it's not explained by patient risk or patient preference, that means the hospital itself could be a risk factor. All of our projects right now are actually trying to figure out what makes Hospital A different from Hospital B. What we've seen is that oftentimes the labor floor is in kind of like a almost forgotten about corner, and it just doesn't get a lot of investment or attention from the hospital. When we visit a bunch of different hospitals, we realize that they're laid out very differently, and that might matter. For example, there are no rules for how many labor floor rooms you should have based on the amount of patients that you see. The place that does twice as many deliveries also does way more C-sections. The only way that's possible is if they're moving people through much faster. Almost all labor floors seem really tight on resources, so the idea is when you have a huge surge in patient volume, how do you flexibly recruit more rooms? How do you bring in more staff? Do you report C-section rates back to your doctors? Like, I have no idea what my C-section rate is until somebody tells me. You know, we're testing this hypothesis that management matters in childbirth just the way it matters in every other industry. We're starting to parse differences among C-sections. So rather than looking at all C-sections altogether, we're trying to just take the lowest risk women and focus on their C-section rate. As soon as you start to do that, two things happen. Insurance companies start to pay attention, and then just women start to pay attention. And I actually think this is an area where women's views on this are probably going to be the driving force behind the change. There's really no other moment in people's life where they're so discerning as when they become pregnant.